Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of Reviews of Yesteryear. In the last episode, we looked at one of the earliest and most classic NES games made, Castlevania. Now, it's time to look at the sequel, Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest. Unlike the first game, where you had to follow a set path and reach the end of the goal to fight a boss, the second game goes for a non-linear style like Zelda and Metroid, where you have to roam around and explore and talk to townspeople for hints and clues. Now you would think this would be kind of a neat idea. I mean, Symphony of the Night followed this style, and that was a highly successful game. But no, although this is the first Castlevania game to go for this style, it's still terribly flawed. But before I get to the negatives, let's start with some positives. The graphics and the music are fantastic, especially the Bloody Tears tune. Seriously though, how many times has the Bloody Tears tune been reused and remixed in future games? It seems like you can't have a Castlevania game without the Bloody Tears tune. But now, let's get into the negatives. The first thing that comes to anybody's mind is where to go first. Well, if you try talking to any of the townspeople, you'll find that only this guy has something useful to say. He tells you to find a white crystal. So, okay, that seems simple. I recall seeing a merchant here selling a white crystal. By the way, you remember in the first game where the hearts were for ammunition? Well, here, it's the currency. What kind of village takes hearts for money? You have to buy almost all of your equipment, including the whips. Each town has a different whip power-up. The hearts are also experience points. When you get enough, your health will slightly increase and the number of experience goes back down to 0. And you may be thinking you can just probably kill the same enemies over and over again until you reach maximum health. But no! Once you rank up, you have to fight tougher enemies in order to get more experience. This is also a good way to get some extra money, but it becomes tedious as all hell doing this constantly. Not to mention when you get a game over, you lose all your hearts and experience, which is annoying beyond belief. Now let's talk about the plot for a second. After Simon killed Dracula in the first game, all of his body parts were scattered into 5 different mansions. How exactly he got into the mansions I don't understand, but the ultimate objective is for Simon to go into these mansions, collect the body parts, and finish the curse of Dracula once and for all. Now the mansions themselves aren't exactly big, but some of them may take a bit of time because of these fake blocks. And it still doesn't help that Simon has that going backward crap when he gets hit. Look at this, I'm trying to kill this guy, but I get knocked back and fall through the fake block. That is so freaking cheap and unfair. The only way to tell where there is a fake block is to throw holy water at every tile you see. This is so boring. My god. Why put fake blocks in this game? At the end of each mansion, you'll come across an orb. In the first game, after you beat a boss, an orb comes down, and when you touch it, you go on to the next level. However, in this game, that's not at all how it works. You have to know to throw an oak stick at an orb, and then you collect the body part, with a message saying, you know, possess Dracula's rib? Or whatever part you've collected. Now there is kind of a clue inside the first mansion. One thing I forgot to mention is that you can also use the holy water to break some of the walls to reveal books which can give you hints. And in some of the shops you can use the holy water to break the tiles on the floor. But how are you supposed to know that is way beyond me? The hint in the first mansion reads, a symbol of evil will appear when you strike the stake? Okay, first of all, who the hell was proofreading this game? Secondly, how are you supposed to know that you used a stake on the orb? When you first buy it, you assume it's a weapon, right? Only to find out that it does absolutely nothing. You know what this is? This game is all about secrets, and it forces you to search every square inch of the entire village. Even after you collect the body part, you still have to walk all the way out to the entrance again. Look at a game like Zelda. As soon as you beat the boss and collect a piece of the Triforce, it will take you outside the dungeon. But here, they decided, screw you. If you want to beat the game, you gotta walk all the way back. This is a joke. Konami wanted to make this as long as possible, and well, they did. Only 2 of the mansions also contain bosses, but they're ridiculously easy once you know what to do. Look at this, Death's not even able to hit me. So not only did he lose his dignity by wearing a pink robe, but he's also one of the most pathetic bosses ever made. Each of the bosses have only one attack too, So that just goes to show that these bosses were lazily made. Not only that, but the face is the only boss that's actually necessary to beat the game. All Death gives you is a gold dagger. So Death shouldn't even be in the game if he's not here for a good purpose. One other annoying thing that occurs is when it changes from day to night. Is that really necessary? Why does the game insist on wasting 10 seconds of my life just to change from day to night? The same goes when it changes from night to day. But damn, I haven't even started talking about how cryptic this game can be. Take this part where you're supposed to go under this lake. You can just vaguely see the platform, so you'll get the idea you're supposed to go down there. However, if you touch the water, you die. Seriously, this guy can battle through hordes of monsters, but he can't even freaking swim? Why is this such a big issue? So in order to get under the lake, you have to know to trade your white crystal for a blue crystal, select the blue crystal, kneel down for a few seconds, and then you can go through the water. How the hell was anybody supposed to know that? There's a similar part where you come across a dead end. In this part, however, you need to trade your blue crystal for a red crystal, kneel down for a few seconds, and then wait for a tornado to come. Then there's this part where you have to show a ferryman Dracula's heart in order for him to take you to the third mansion. What person waits on a ferry for someone to bring him Dracula's heart? What's also strange is that there are 2 cemeteries, each with a person in an orange robe who waits for someone to drop garlic, so they can either give you a silver knife or a silk bag. Wow, these men sure love their garlic. There are quite a lot of annoying things that can happen as well. For example, the shops close when it turns to night. I constantly find myself having enough hearts to buy something, but then the shops close. Come on. Come on, I'm almost there. Oh, you son of a... When you lose a life, you get placed back at the nearest platform, which can sometimes help, but sometimes you get put close to the water without realizing it, and naturally, you would keep holding forward or backward. But if you do that, that happens. And then there are these blocks. Now, even though I'm making this look easy, you're just gonna die, and die, and die. One thing I forgot to mention for the first game is that there are these Medusa heads, which can be irritating as all hell because of their wave-like pattern. Thankfully, the Medusa heads in this game are a hell of a lot more forgiving because all they do is follow you around. But instead, in terms of irritants, are replaced by these blobs. They bounce all over the place. Also, if you're thinking of just jumping off platforms in the towns instead of just taking the stairs, then do it at your own risk, because sometimes you will make it to the bottom, and other times you will fall in the water. In terms of the body parts themselves, each one performs different effects. For example, the ribs can be used as a shield, the heart, as already explained, can be used to show to the ferryman so you can take it to the third castle, and there's also the nail, which can be used to break these blocks so you can get to Dracula. Now about the whips themselves. Well, all I can say is that they perform exactly how they did in the first game. However, new to the series is the flame whip, which actually looks pretty cool. Don't get too attached to this whip though, because this is probably the only Castlevania game that has the flame whip. Look at me, I'm fighting fire with fire! Now, I'm gonna be completely honest, but I had to use a password in order to get to the flame whip. Why, you may ask? Well, watch the situation. So I don't have enough to get the Morning Star, which is the whip power before the flame whip. I do the tornado part. Maybe I should go back and get the Morning Star first. I can't seem to get back. Oh, that's great. I'm stuck here. I can't go back to get the power-up, and this bastard won't give me the flame whip unless if I get the Morning Star. So I'm left with a crappy weapon against the toughest enemies in the game. The only thing I can do now is enter a password. But look at this, it's almost as bad as Metroid. Trying to move the cursor as well can be a pain in the ass because you have to hold down the D-pad in order for it to actually move. If you try tapping it like you normally would, then it barely moves at all. May not sound bad, but try it out for yourself and you'll see what I'm talking about. Finally, I'm up to Dracula. Okay, so are there any enemies in this place? Still no enemies. Oh boy. So after walking through an empty castle with nothing to get in my way except for occasionally using holy water on some blocks, we at last confront Dracula. Simon puts in all the body parts, and then comes the skeleton of Dracula in a black robe, not looking like the Grim Reaper at all. He's even throwing sickles at me. How could this be Dracula? Unlike the Grim Reaper in the face, Dracula has 2 attacks. But that's certainly not going to matter much when you see how very little abuse Dracula could actually take. You would think that for an end boss he would be quite challenging, but no, Dracula's still pathetically easy. In fact, he's so pathetically easy, he's probably the most pathetic end boss ever made. The best way to kill him is to select the flames and use the same trick I used with death, but if you forget to use that tactic, then just simply hitting him with the whip is good enough. So with Dracula defeated, then comes the ending. Now, like Metroid, there are different endings depending on how fast you beat the game, but I've gotta say, this is probably the slowest moving text I've ever seen in a video game. Oh, good lord. Come on! You know what? Screw it. There you have it, folks. Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest. A mediocre action-adventure game, very little enjoyment to be had. I'll give it a 3 out of 10, standing for atrocious. It would have been lower if it wasn't for the graphics and music. Now I could safely say that the worst is over, and we still got 2 more games to look over. So tune in next time for part 3, we're going to be looking into Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. Until then, I'm Josh Smith from Reviews Yes Here. Take care.